Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Good Wednesday, everyone. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider with the National Weather Service. It's the 24th of May. As always, we encourage you to stay up to date with your local weather information. You can do that easily online at weather.gov/Alaska. And if you've been to the Alaska Aviation Weather Unit's webpage recently, you probably noticed a really big banner at the top that says, "Scary, scary, things are changing." They're going to change. But we'd like you to take a look at the new site now so you can let us know what's working and what's not for you. We understand that some things are nice new changes and other things you may not like so much. That's going to happen. But make sure you check it out, try it out, and if you find something that doesn't work so well for your situation, please let us know. We're trying to fix it. It's a work in progress, and we need to make it work for you. So please do check that out at weather.gov/AAWU. Now, if you'd like to just get your phone out and dial up the forecast, you can do that easily. 1-800-472-0391 always works, and nws.ar.tv weather at NOAA.gov is a great way to reach the TV desk team and myself. If you'd like to just email me personally with your salutations, your commendations, or just your gripes and complaints about the show, I'm happy to hear it, and I'll do what I can about it anytime. David.Snider@NOAA.gov. We'd love to hear from you no matter what. Love to see your picture. You're part of Alaska anytime, too. Tonight's hazardous weather is really focused on the upper Kuskokwim Valley through Denali and the Alaska Range. It is mainly due to wind. If you're in South Central, you probably noticed that sharp uptick in wind speeds in the last several hours, and the precipitation. It's really a combination, though, of the precipitation combined with the incoming cold, because we're going to see the snow levels across the region drop substantially to about 1,000 to 1,500 feet for many areas across South Central, and probably even lower up north. So levels there across some of your favorite passes and the highway summits could go down to about 1,000 to 1,500 feet as well. What does that mean? Above that, you're probably going to see snow accumulation. Below that, don't be surprised to see snowflakes, but no accumulation. Now, there is one place that's probably going to do a little bit better if you're still looking for snow, and that would be for areas west of Polychrome Pass in Denali. So if you have plans to go out that way, whether you're flying or trying to drive the road, assuming that's open, which I think it is, you're going to run into some accumulating snow that could add up to about 4 inches to maybe as much as 11 inches of snow west of Polychrome Pass in the national park. So still some big snow there. Now, for most of us, it's going to be a wind issue. In the upper Kuskokwim Valley, we're talking about wind gusts there on the 40-mile-an-hour range. Those could stretch up to 40 to 60 miles an hour as you wrap around the Alaska Range, especially through some of the summits and passes there. So do plan ahead if you're driving with a high-profile vehicle. Maybe you're the weekend warrior in the Winnebago, or perhaps you're just taking the regular haul up the road. Make sure you're prepared for some stronger winds over the next 24 hours in all those yellow shaded areas. Now, as far as the breakup goes, things are looking pretty good. All the main rivers south of the Brooks Range are coded as open at this point. The Kobuk and Noatak still seeing a few changes there. And we're starting to see things change across the North Slope. So conditions are still changing along the Colville, but it looks like a big improvement there as far as breakup goes for most of the main rivers there. Pretty much a mush out just about statewide. What about fire danger? Well, this kind of weather we're having now is certainly going to help the fire danger. We've kept things kind of tamped down at least a little bit, but we're seeing a few spots here and there maybe that haven't seen a whole lot of precipitation or have tested very recently as slightly higher fire danger. And you can see some of those coded here along the Copper River Basin and around Golcana, up around the Richardson Highway and toward Fairbanks, and just a little bit west toward and north toward Tanana and around the national park. They're fairly isolated spots right now, though, so that is good news, and we don't have anywhere showing up anywhere close to extreme fire danger, and it's certainly not very widespread. So hopes continue for an easy fire weather season. We all know better, of course, so we'll keep an eye on it. Here's a look at low pressure across Alaska. Look at this in motion. You can see a large sweeping storm, the center of it passing St. Matthew this afternoon. The broad white path you see here is moisture and warm air coming up from the Pacific, And as that stretches into south central over Kodiak Island and the interior, you can see the clouds billowing northward. With that comes wind and eventually colder air as that cold air wraps in behind that as we get into later tonight and early tomorrow morning. For southeast, you're still on the warmer and drier side of this weather system. You can see that on the visible satellite picture. Look at all the sunshine making it down into central and southern parts of southeast today. Out west, hit and miss cloud cover, breezy conditions for sure across the southern Bering. The core of the low pressure system looks considerably less intense here, but the spiral nature of that cloud structure sure is impressive. Out across the YK Delta, you can see kind of a freckled pattern here. That is the billowing of clouds, the showers, and potentially even a few thunderstorms later tonight. A better chance for that in a few more places eastward as we head into tomorrow. Up north, cold enough air across the northwest coast for a few pockets of snow here and there. That trend will continue as well, and it looks like low clouds will be more of a regular feature as we go into the next 24 to 36 hours across the north slope, so watch for changes there as well. Now, today's weather map shows high pressure across the southern Gulf at 1,040 millibars. Southeast again looking fairly mild with that flow keeping you fairly dry. West of the ridge, that southerly flow in the upper atmosphere is helping to pump that warm and wet air into south central Kodiak Island and out across southwest. Behind the front, conditions have cooled off. We're still seeing showers there and low pressure across the central Bering at 1,001 millibars. Another more stronger low that's associated with the surface features at 997 millibars on the western tip of the Seward Peninsula near Shishmaref. And then the front separating the much colder air from the much warmer air that's moving northward is still sitting across the north slope and showers on the south side of that. As we get into tonight, it's very likely we're going to see rain mixed with snow across many parts of the north and the western interior, as well as southwest Alaska and the Seward Peninsula. The front that's helping to change all that is marching eastward fairly quickly. Out ahead of that, across the Gulf, you'll see periods of rain. Some of that may stretch into Sitka and northward toward Gustavus, perhaps as far north as Haines, but a lot of that it seems to really miss central and southern parts of southeast. Out across the west, periods of rain and snow showers for Bristol Bay, the central and eastern chain. Notice there's another little clipper that's going to fly down the central chain. It's not a very strong system, but it may pack in a little bit of wind at times, 1,018 millibars on that one. And then south of the Gulf of Anadyr, enough cold weather and enough moisture wrapped around that for some snow showers across the western Bering Sea. Here's what happens tomorrow. Widely scattered showers and thunderstorms may be possible across the region. Better chance for showers across the Alcan border and across south central. But as you get into the higher terrain, especially the western and northern parts of the Alaska Range into around Denali National Park, and along the central and middle Yukon Valley, there's an opportunity for convection. Maybe showers, maybe a few thunderstorms with that, and as far south as the Talkeetnas. Look for some periods of rain around Cross Sound and points northward there, but again, doesn't really seem to go further south than that at this point. The front stretches north of the Arctic coast and into the Chukchi Sea, wrapping around low pressure that really does not move very much. So if you're in Shishmaref, you're going to be under that central circulation for quite a while. And then on the back side of this, enough cold air for rain and snow showers again. In the morning, you may find that that snow level has dropped substantially, and that trend will continue as we head into Friday. Look for rain and snow showers up north around the Brooks Range, snow showers for the Chukchi Coast. Southeast still sitting fairly dry with high pressure to your south. And remember that clipper out west, that's made its way all the way down to the Alaska Peninsula, 1,004 millibars, and we are connecting that moisture pump into south central and southwest and keeping the risk of a few showers and storms going across the interior. That's the plan for the next couple days. Here's what's happened today. 40s and 50s for most of southeast as you get toward Ketchikan and Annette. Temps were making it into the lower 60s this afternoon. Mid-40s around Prince William Sound and most of Cook Inlet thanks to the clouds and the rain. 58 and still mild in Fairbanks today, 63 for our friends watching in Eagle, 60 in Fort Yukon up north around Arctic Village, close to 50 degrees, 30s and 40s for the North Slope, Barrows up to 32. Same goes for Wainwright today, 43 in Kivalina and 37 in Shishmaref. It was 38 in Nome, 47 for Galena, Russian Mission and down toward Holy Cross. Temps were in the 40s. McGrath was 45 today, 40 in Bethel. As you look at Bristol Bay, temps were in the mid-40s there. Lake Iliamna, 42. 40s and 50s for most of the Alaska Peninsula, 46 around Sand Point today. Kodiak Island up to 58 though. That was a warm one. 46 in St. Paul and low to mid 40s for the central and western chain. Overnight lows will stay fairly mild across the upper Yukon Valley and the upper Tanana Valley, lower to mid 40s there, closer to 40 in Fairbanks, south central, also upper 30s and low 40s, so a mild night thanks to the wind and wet air. Mid 40s for southeast, maybe slightly closer to 50 degrees the further south you go toward Ketchikan, and just a hair below freezing for most of the North Slope, at or just below that mark. Kotzebue Sound looking at low 30s as well. 32 in Nome, 32 for St. Lawrence Island. Lower to mid 30s for most of Southwest, and cooling down as you head out toward Nunivak Island. 37 in St. Paul, and upper 30s for most of the chain and the Alaska Peninsula. High temps tomorrow are going to suffer again thanks to the clouds and the wet air over south central. Upper 40s and low 50s, maybe slightly milder than today. Southeast, you're going to see a mild wind, upper 50s and low 60s for most locations. There's 65 possible around Haines and Skagway, closer to 60 for Eagle and Fort Yukon. Mid 50s for Fairbanks, and mid to upper 30s for the North Slope. 37 around Nome. Galena, you're looking at 50 degrees, and south and west as well as Bristol Bay, low 40s tomorrow, so a little bit of recovery. 40 around St. Paul. Flying weather is going to be tricky the next couple days due to visibility, due to wind, and due to changing weather conditions as a lot of different pieces of this puzzle move through Alaska. Look for IFR conditions to start in the northern Gulf. A mixture of VFR and MVFR for most of southeast. IFR conditions around some of your favorite passes through the Brooks Range. MVFR for the North Slope, and IFR conditions from St. Lawrence Island and through the Bering Strait out toward Wales and north into the Kotzebue Sound region and out west across the Aleutians. Look for convection across the interior as we get into the afternoon tomorrow. MVFR conditions stretching southward into central and northern parts of the Panhandle. IFR lingers across the western part of the Seward Peninsula through Nome, but not quite to Unalakleet or the eastern Norton Sound coast. And IFR is expected over Barrow as we get into the afternoon. Past conditions, well, VFR should see some improvements there for Anaktuvik and Adigan Pass as we go through your afternoon, so there is some good news there. Lake Clark and Merrill Pass also expected to see marginal conditions through most of the day. Watch for showers and thunderstorms to develop in the region throughout the afternoon. Same goes for Rainy Pass, but it looks like the ceiling should lift a little bit in the afternoon. And same goes for Windy Pass, and we'll need that daytime heating to help build the clouds. So if the first part doesn't happen, the showers and thunderstorms probably won't happen either. Isabel Pass, we're looking for marginal conditions to start the day. A lesser chance of showers and storms the further east you go. Mentasta Pass, looking at VFR conditions through most of your day. Tanita Pass, starting at MVFR in the morning there, and some improvement, but not so much for Portage Pass, looking like ceilings remain marginal through most of the day. Chilkoot and White Pass also expected to stay at least marginal through most of the morning and afternoon. Freezing levels indicate that cold air is still holding over the Bering Sea, but it's not really creeping too much further eastward. It will creep eastward just enough again to lower the snow levels through many of our favorite mountains. So don't be surprised if you see snow a little bit lower than it's been in the last several days. Again, accumulation at where most of us live, probably not going to be a huge issue unless you're west of Polychrome Pass, and then that, of course, could add up to 4 to 11 inches. There's a winter weather advisory out for the region. Out across southeast, your levels range from 6 to 10,000 feet. Up north, about 2 to as high as 6,000 feet. Again, that's dropping up north, and that cold air is slowly slinking south and east. Try saying that 5 times fast. Icing potential across the northwest, also lowering above 3,000 feet there across the Chukchi Coast and Kotzebue Sound. Some of that could reach occasional moderate there. The core of low pressure is right here, so there's a lot of moisture accumulated here and a lot of cold air. It's all in the right spot, and again, a risk could be slightly higher in that region for tomorrow. Across the central and eastern Gulf Coast above 6,000 feet, remember that's our wave of low pressure and the cold air that's trying to march eastward with the front. And then pockets of icing around the Alaska Range as well as the Chugach and parts of Prince William Sound. And most of that could be above 2,000 feet. Again, you will see some snow. Tomorrow's jet stream has the core of low pressure up around the Seward Peninsula. The main track of the low pressure wave right now is coming across the North Pacific. Wind speeds there 120 to 150 knots and pumping that moisture and warm air up across eastern Alaska now at around 100 knots from the south. At 9,000 feet, our broad south and westerly flow is helping to keep all that storm energy focused right on interior Alaska. So 20 to 30 knots coming in from the west and southwest. Southwesterly flow over the Gulf into southeastern Alaska at 20 to 30. And southerlies for the North Slope, about 10 to 20 there. And then the wraparound moisture and cold air coming in to Norton Sound at 15 to 20. At 3,000 feet, the story is pretty much the same. Wind speeds are a little bit lighter across the interior here. The main focus for stronger winds will be across the YK Delta and across the western Bering Seacoast. Light winds just about everywhere else. Turbulence potential is going to focus on the mountainous terrain as well as Kotzebue Sound below 4,000 feet. Some occasional to widespread moderate there, as well as the central and eastern Beaufort Seacoast and across the central and western chain in the very southern part of southeast around the Dixon entrance below 4,000 feet. That's a look at your aviation forecast. We'll be back with the rest of your marine weather here in just a few minutes. Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm Dave Snider, and joining me today is Cindy Preller. She's the Tsunami Program Manager for Alaska Region's National Weather Service. And Cindy, we hear a lot about tsunamis in the news, probably a lot more than we used to, but let's remind everybody, what is a tsunami?
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Sure.
Tsunami is basically, it's really simple. It's just a disturbance in the water column. So the entire water column from the seafloor to the sea surface is disturbed by something major, usually a major earthquake. But it can also be a volcanic eruption, even an asteroid. Landslide is especially dangerous.
Okay, so if I'm sitting in my bathtub and I drop a bath toy, that could be a bathtub tsunami.
It is absolutely a bathtub tsunami.
Okay, very good. So Alaska is one of the states, or maybe the state, with the greatest amount of coastline. So tsunamis are a pretty major risk here in Alaska. Who is most at risk?
Yeah, Alaska is significant. We actually make most of the Pacific's tsunamis on the Aleutian Trench. And it's where the Pacific plate is subducting underneath the American plate. And we produce some very large, great quakes, and of course the most at risk is the Aleutian Trench.
Okay.
But that extends into south central Alaska as well. They're at huge risk, and then southeast Alaska's risk is really mostly landslide focused.
Okay. Are there any places along the Alaskan coastline that don't have a tsunami risk, or at least a very, very low risk?
Absolutely. The Bering Sea's risk is very low, and the Arctic's risk is very low as well.
Okay, so when we're talking about tsunami dangers, those are places that need to be monitored, but probably not really.
No, I mean, I won't say never.
Yeah, sure.
Because I know better.
Science knows better.
Right. So,
very good.
Near to never.
Okay. Well, let's just say you're on the coast, anywhere in Alaska. What are warning signs that tsunami dangers are threatening you right now?
This is super important because Alaska's greatest risk, especially out on the Aleutians and South Central, is a near-field tsunami, and then of course landslides in southeast. It's even more intense because we can't.
So shorter warning time.
No warning time.
Okay.
The earthquake is the warning.
Okay.
And that is the most important thing for anybody to remember. The water can arrive in less than 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Wow.
Yeah. At the National Tsunami Warning Center in Palmer, we need to get the warning out in 5 minutes. So for those near-field tsunamis. It's the earthquake is the warning. So if you feel shaking, and of course the first thing you do is drop, cover, and hold, and you need to start counting slowly to 20.
The right way. How do you do that?
Oh, I teach kids to do it with their favorite things. So 1 chocolate, 2 chocolate, 3 chocolate, but you can count anything you like. And if you're thinking of something happy, that helps. Especially helps kids, but it'll help your psyche.
So you don't speed up because you're getting stressed out.
Right. It actually lowers your heart rate.
Interesting.
You know, so if you think of something you love and practice that. So you're in an earthquake, you're under the table, you're next to the ocean. Right. This is important if you're next to the ocean. If you're not next to the ocean, don't worry about it. Just stay in place under cover.
And you're talking about a mile, a quarter mile. What's close?
A mile, even a couple miles. You know, our rule of thumb used to be a mile inland was safe, but the last few tsunamis have taught us otherwise. So, yeah, you know, in Japan we had inundation up to 10 miles. So.
And that was a big quake.
That was a big quake.
So you have a quake, you're counting slowly to 20.
To 20.
What's next?
And if you get to 20 and it's still shaking, you need to evacuate. And that is, that's scary.
Yeah.
Because you're evacuating in a live event that's still shaking. You know, 1964 shook for 4.5 minutes. Indonesia shook for 12 minutes.
Wow.
Japan, I think, shook for 6. I'm not sure of that, but it was long. Anyway, more than 20 seconds.
And that's a sign of a very major earthquake, the worst.
Well, 20 seconds is a magnitude 7, so that's not the worst. But what a magnitude 7 can do is trigger a landslide. And those landslides might be a submarine landslide, so you won't see it, you won't hear it, you won't know it, and then the water's moving.
Okay.
So that's really, really, really dangerous. That's what happened in '64 first. Seward, Valdez, Whittier all had landslides first.
Okay. And when you're talking about the water is a warning sign too. What happens with the water that gives you a very easy visual sign that something's changing?
Not guaranteed. It might go out. It might go way out really fast enough to leave the fish behind. But that's not guaranteed. It might just be a fast flood instead.
Okay.
So either way, if it's acting like a super fast rising tide, faster than a tide should rise,
Right.
get out of there.
Okay.
And if it goes out really fast, get out of there.
Yeah.
You know, we lost a lot of lives because people will go check out the new tide pools or
Sure.
pick up fish or shells or, you know, so, and it should feel weird.
Right.
You know, it should be weird.
So pay attention to those natural warning signs and how you feel, because those are maybe the only clues you have.
Right, and you know, sound also. You can hear a tsunami. It'll sound like a roaring train, maybe.
Okay.
Or it might sound silent because the water's been pulled out.
Right.
And that's pretty weird. Imagine camping
Yeah.
at night
Yeah.
near the beach, and all of a sudden you don't hear the ocean anymore.
That would be different.
That would be weird. Yeah.
Okay.
And then you also might hear blowing bubbles, and that's actually from the pressure that's blowing the air out from the sand grains, rock
Interesting.
grains. So if you hear blowing bubbles, that's a little weird.
Okay.
Or clinking rocks, you know, like a rain stick. So those are the sound signs. So the visual is rushing in or rushing out, and roaring especially.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of work to get people and keep people aware of what the tsunami warning signs are and what their risks are around Alaska. And there's a website that can help them do that. Where can they go online to get more information for their school, their home, their church, their business?
Oh, there's several. The National Tsunami Warning Center has a website as well, and the easiest way to look that up is just NTWC.
NTWC.
The URL is not intuitive at all.
Okay.
There's also ready.alaska.gov. The state of Alaska has a lot of helpful stuff. Preparedness kits. They have everything you need to get ready.
Okay.
And then for teachers and others, there's a wonderful curriculum called Alaska Tsunami Education Program.
Alaska Tsunami Education Program. Okay.
And that's AKwx.
AKwx. Okay, very good. Those are really good tips to get more information and search that out and help your own community stay safe with the threat of tsunamis around Alaska. Next time we come back and talk to you some more about the Tsunami Ready program and get more in depth on how people can learn more about the risks and what to do here in Alaska. So thank you for joining us today, Cindy. And next time on Alaska Weather Facts, more on tsunamis around Alaska. We'll see you next time. That guy needs a haircut. Wow. Here's a look at the sea ice edge, and if you've been paying attention across the Chukchi coast, you know that this is the area that's under 80% concentration. A lot of this is already open water. Maybe not sea ice free completely, but very, very open. And just in the last 24 hours, since we talked about this yesterday, the ice edge has advanced northward and outward by about 15 miles. A rapid melting and decrease in the sea ice concentration and extent across the Chukchi coast just in one day's time. So a lot of changes out there. Make sure you're checking up on it. If you're headed that way, weather.gov/Anchorage/ice. In southeast, southerlies across the Lynn Canal, 25 knots with a 5-foot sea. Northwesterlies down the rest of the inner channels, 15 to 20 with 3 to 4 foot seas on the inside. More of an onshore flow north of Sitka, 15 knots with a 7 to 8 foot sea. Northwesterlies coming southward toward the Dixon entrance, 20 to 25 with 7 to 8 foot seas there. Little change across the outer coast for Friday. Winds still holding around 10 to 20 with the onshore flow north of Sitka. That's still pretty light. Southerlies diminish a little bit in the Lynn Canal. We keep our northerly flow coming down the inner channels. South of Juneau, 15 to 20 with 3 to 4 foot seas there on Friday. For south central, southerlies coming into Prince William Sound over Montague Island, 15 knots. A 3-foot sea there, 10 to 20 knots across the western Gulf. Looking for 7-foot seas there, and across Cook Inlet, the winds are coming in hard, 25 to 30 with 7 to 9 foot seas all the way up to the northern part of Cook Inlet. So this is kind of a strong and stiff wind kind of day. Southwesterlies through Shelikof Strait, 10-foot seas there. Not a nice day if you're on the ferry. So Thursday's weather remarkably Not nice. And then as we get into Friday, a much better picture. There's light southeasterlies inside of Prince William Sound. Winds diminish in Cook Inlet through the Barren Islands, even 15 to 20. 5-foot seas there over the Barrens, 6-foot seas east of Kodiak Island, 4-foot seas now inside of Shelikof Strait, and a light and variable flow in the northern Gulf with 5 to 6-foot seas there for the end of the week. So things can get better quickly. Southwesterlies inside of Bristol Bay, an 8-foot sea there with 25-knot winds for tomorrow. Westerlies on the Bering Sea coast with 10-foot seas, 20 knots across the North Pacific with 8 to 9-foot seas on Thursday. That reverses course by the end of the week with southeasterlies for Friday, 20 knots with an 8-foot sea, 4-foot seas inside of Bristol Bay, and easterly offshore flow becoming northeasterly as you head down the Bering Sea coast, a 5-foot sea there and a 15-knot wind. For the Aleutians, pretty much a flow following the chain, west, northwesterlies out to the west, and then southwesterlies for the central and eastern chain, 20 to 25 in most areas. As you get south of Nikolsky, Adak, and Atka and out toward Kiska, that could come up to as high as 30 knots with 12-foot seas in those areas, 10-foot seas north of Nikolsky and Unalaska, 8-foot seas on the south side for your Thursday. For Friday, notice the winds switch around west of Adak. You're getting into more of an east and southeast flow now, 6-foot seas there, a light and variable wind south of Adak and Atka, but the seas are still up there, 7 to 8 feet, and northwesterlies from Nikolsky to Unalaska. Remember, low pressure's up here, and we're starting to get that quick turnaround into the next wave that's coming in from the north and western Pacific. So this is the first storm influence. The second one starts to make its mark here across the western chain. Here's Thursday in the west, an onshore flow, broad westerly sweeping in. Low pressures up here across the Seward Peninsula. 20 to 25 south of St. Lawrence Island, 10-foot seas in the Kuskokwim Delta region, 9-foot seas around the Pribilofs, and 20 knots and 6-foot seas around St. Matthew. For Friday, southerlies start to pick up across the west coast again, 20 to 25, 5 to 6-foot seas there, 5-foot seas around the Pribilofs, and 6-foot seas around St. Matthew on a 20-knot wind. Could be some freezing fog in the region. Right now, freezing spray is not a huge concern. South and easterly winds across the Beaufort Sea coast, 25 to 30, looking for offshore winds, 15 knots across the Chukchi coast. 3 to 5-foot seas in those regions for Thursday. As we get into Friday, more of a southerly flow, 15 to 20, and light winds around Kaktovik and Dead Horse becoming southeasterly as you move westward down the coast. Recapping tonight's weather, wind advisories for most of your favorite passes on the road system. Across the Alaska Range, the snow level will be coming down west of Polychrome Pass. You could see as much as 4 to 11 inches of snow there in the next 24 hours. Looks like snow levels for many locations also dropping to about 1,000 to 2,000 feet. Above that, you'll see some snow accumulation. For most of us where we live, not much of an issue. Look for widely scattered showers and storms in the interior and continued rainfall across south central and southwest. Thanks for watching Alaska Weather. See you again here tomorrow.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.